Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to Newstos. So last week, Sony confirmed that several new tiers will be heading over to PlayStation Plus later this year, including Extra as well as their Premium tier, and one of the big focuses that they have is with their backwards compatibility, though this has brought forth a lot of questions and maybe even a little bit of disappointment. But, and there's a big but here, it is starting to sound like PlayStation might have a little bit more planned than what they had previously confirmed last week, and yeah, I think a lot of you all are really gonna like this. So we are gonna go over that later in the video, and we're also going to talk a little bit about Summer Game Fest because some more details are starting to make their way online, and I think it's actually sounding pretty promising, so make sure to stay tuned for all of that as well. Per usual though, if you do find yourself enjoying the video, make sure to hit that bell notification, subscribe, and like button below so you can stay up to date with all of the gaming news. I am here every single week, Monday through Friday, and it's completely free to use, so I mean, what's there to argue? Free news? Yeah. I got you covered. So let's just go and jump right into things though, starting off with something that actually is very exciting to me personally. And I think a lot of you all probably will not understand why I'm so excited about this, but let me just kind of say this is a big thing. So Brandon Sanderson, the author, the best-selling fantasy author, Brandon Sanderson, has apparently talked with Bandai Namco about a Soulsborne game. This all happened on livestream where Brandon Sanderson teased this whenever he was talking about this large Elden Ring parcel that he has, and check out what he had to say. They are interested in perhaps doing something together, is what that says. I am as well, actually. This is how I roll. I actually have a pitch for them in the back of my head, so I have to send them my pitch and see what they think. Now, this is notable for various reasons. For one, look at who FromSoftware just worked with. They worked with yet another fantasy author, being George R.R. Martin. Now, the thing about that is that Brandon Sanderson in the past has seemed kind of salty about this issue because George R.R. Martin doesn't exactly play games, whereas Brandon Sanderson does. So Brandon Sanderson has actually talked about this very specific topic publicly before, and it does sound like Bandai Namco is now listening because they sent him a parcel, and well, he's going to have his opportunity to have that FromSoftware pitch after all, and I think that this is incredibly exciting. Again, I do completely understand that a lot of you all probably don't even realize who Brandon Sanderson is, but if you do, you know exactly why this is so exciting. He is legitimately and absolutely one of the best fantasy writers out there right now. I mean, there's a few standouts such as George R.R. Martin with Song of Ice and Fire, though who knows if we're actually going to see a conclusion. I'm a big fan of Kingkiller Chronicles from Patrick Rothfuss. He has such beautiful and poetic writing, but again, who knows if we're actually ever going to see a conclusion. And then you have Brandon Sanderson, and not only is he a great writer, but unlike the other two that I just mentioned, Brandon Sanderson is pretty much a machine. He is very consistent with his writing. Some of his books include Mistborn, which is probably his most popular. There's also the Stormlight Archive, which is my personal favorites that he writes. He also has done books like The Reckoners, Elantris, Skyward, Warbreaker, and the list just kind of goes on and on. And honestly, some of his books would translate perfectly into games. Mistborn, as an example, because his world building is so good and his magic systems are just incredible, this ultimately could turn out to be something pretty special. I mean, we already saw what happened with Elden Ring, absolutely amazing, but now we have Brandon Sanderson possibly getting a chance to work with FromSoftware as well. Yeah, that's pretty much all I need to know. Let's make this happen. Moving on though, I think today was just kind of the day of dreams because not only do we have this potential Brandon Sanderson FromSoftware game, which just sounds perfect on paper, but also we got a surprise announcement about a franchise that is returning after a long hiatus, and that would be Monkey Island. Yes, the popular point-and-click adventure franchise is returning in the year of 2022, and even better, this will be directed and co-written by the legendary series creator Ron Gilbert. So this is a legitimate comeback for the Monkey Island games, which we have not seen in over 13 years. The last Monkey Island game that we got was 2009's Tales of Monkey Island, so it's been a long time, but I think that even with that, there's just so much confidence with Ron Gilbert and his studio Terrible Toy Box that I think we just kind of expect this to be yet another fantastic point-and-click adventure game. I mean, even last generation, they released Thimbleweed Park, which turned out to be one of the better point-and-click adventure games of really the last decade. indeed. So, I mean, if you're a fan of this genre or the original Monkey Island games, there's going to be some real excitement with the return of Monkey Island that will be releasing later this year in 2022. Now, beyond that, though, we don't know too much about this game as of this moment. We don't really know the narrative, the platforms it's going to release on, or anything like that just yet, but as we start to hear more, of course, I will try to keep you up to date with all of that. Let me know in the comments below, though, are you excited for the return of Monkey Island? Let's go moving over to some PlayStation news, as we do have a few different things to talk about here. The first of which is for PlayStation Now. Today, they did confirm the April games, including Outer Wilds, WRC10, Journey to the Savage Planet, and then also Werewolf the Apocalypse Earthblood. Now, I can't really speak for Werewolf the Apocalypse myself. I've never played this game personally. I did look it up online, and I found out that it has like a 54 overall score on Metacritic. So, I mean, if you're subscribed and if you want to take a chance, I mean, I guess you could, but I will speak very highly of some of these other games, including Journey to the Savage Planet and especially the Outer Wilds. A lot of people will just flat out consider the Outer Wilds a masterpiece, and I'm not going to disagree with that. This is a game that launched directly into Xbox Game Pass a few years ago, and I think it took a lot of people by surprise, including myself. That's actually how I discovered this game as well, and I'm so very happy that I did. It just kind of throws you into this mysterious universe where it explodes like every 12 minutes or so, and you're trying to solve all of the mysteries through its universe and why everything is happening the way it is. It is such a fascinating and brilliant game, so definitely recommend that one. Now, as for Journey to the Savage Planet, it's a little bit more on the goofy side of things. It doesn't take itself overly serious, but it's a fun little Metroidvania style of game in a very strange planet, to say the least. It also has a cooperative mode, so if you're looking for something to play with your friend, then you might want to check out Journey to the Savage Planet. And of course, WRC10, if you're looking just for a racing game, you do have that one as well. Overall, though, I think that if you haven't already played these games, I think it's a pretty decent lineup. No, it doesn't necessarily include day one releases, which is something that I think that they should and need to do in the future, but at the same time, you do have some high quality releases here at the very least. Actually, since we're talking about PlayStation Now, as we learned last week, PlayStation Now will be transitioning over to PlayStation Plus Premium later this year, and their big focus with this service will be backwards compatible games. They did confirm that PlayStation Plus Premium will include access to 340 games from the original PlayStation, the PS2, the PS3, and even the PSP. And for the most part, it does appear that most of this will be done through local backwards compatibility, except with the PlayStation 3. Much like we already see with PlayStation Now, PlayStation 3 games will continue to be streamed. So this was kind of disappointing for a lot of fans out there. There was that hope that maybe they could have figured things out and got this working with local backwards compatibility, but they still have not quite cracked the code, or at least yet. It is starting to sound like that they are currently working on this in the background. This is according to the VentureBeat journalist Jeff Grubb, which we have talked about on the channel countless times, as he has leaked out a lot of information over the last couple years, a lot of which has turned out to be true. So he has proven that he has some legitimate sources in industry, which is why we continue to talk about him. And he did say here recently that even though they have not officially announced anything, that the service could eventually receive PlayStation 3 emulation. You can actually take a look at his exact statement here, where he said, "Since talking about this all week, I've looked, I've asked. It sounds like Sony might be working on emulation for PlayStation 3 on PlayStation 5. It may take some time. I wish that they would come out and tell us that you care about this stuff, because that is what was missing from the PlayStation Plus announcement. To me, it seemed like they didn't care about any of it. They just slapped it together, put a new name on it, and sold it." And I do kind of agree with him here, which we'll kind of get back to here in just a second. But the good news here is that, at least according to him and what he's been hearing, it does sound like Sony is indeed trying to bring PlayStation 3 emulation over to the PlayStation 5 through local backwards compatibility. And this would be absolutely huge. The PlayStation 3 has a phenomenal library of games, whether that be Metal Gear Solid 4, which is still stuck on a PlayStation 3. It had Mod Nation Racers, you had the Killzone franchise. This is where the Uncharted franchise began. You also had The Last of Us. I know some of these games made their way over to the PlayStation 4, but then you had other games such as Resistance, you had Sly Cooper, and the list just kind of goes on and on. The PlayStation 3 really has a great library of games, and if they can find a way to get these games working locally on the PlayStation 5. That would be such a big win for Sony. I know the cell processor on the PlayStation 3 has always been difficult to work around, but this would definitely make PlayStation Premium a lot more enticing to buy. I think as is, and the price that Sony is asking for when it comes to PlayStation Plus Premium, it is a little steep. I mean, PlayStation Plus Premium costs $120 a year, which is the same price as Xbox Game Pass, except for Xbox Game Pass offers day one first-party releases. So that's kind of the expectations for a $120 subscription. And okay, I get it, Sony's not going to do that, and that's perfectly fine. But they can still offer some other things that might make this service a little bit more enticing. I don't think streaming games is going to sit well with a lot of fans out there, so local backwards compatibility for the PlayStation 3 would definitely help out quite a bit. But then also, maybe if Sony ever remembered the Vita existed, yes, us Vita fans are still very, very sad people, but always remember, Vita means life. And maybe PlayStation could, I don't know, give Vita some new life on the PlayStation 5 through backwards compatibility. That would probably go a long way as well. And then last but not least, even if they don't do day one releases, I think that something that they should do is bring some of their first-party games, if not all of their first-party games, over to PlayStation Plus Premium within a 6-month to 12-month period. I think that would be big as well, but we'll kind of see how all this plays out. At the very least, it looks like PlayStation 3 local backwards compatibility might be a possibility. Not confirmation, but at least a possibility. Let's go ahead and move on though, and something that we talked about last week was the cancellation of E3 2022. Unfortunately, and I think this was already to be expected, but there will not be a physical E3 event for this year, but also there will not be a digital event as well. This is definitely a big blow on the community, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in a bit, but there still is Summer Game Fest. Jeff Keighley once again did confirm that Summer Game Fest is still on and will be taking place this summer, but he had some very interesting things to say over on Twitter during the weekend that I actually think sounds pretty good. So currently, as it stands, it does seem like a lot of the community are a little bit mixed when it comes to the Summer Game Fest for a few different reasons. The big one probably is that the Summer Game Fest in the past has been just kind of all over the place. It can span 2 to 3 months where these different publishers, they're posting their events just kind of all over the place, whereas something like E3, that was always done in a week period. So that is quite the contrast, and not everybody liked the format that Summer Game Fest has taken so far, and that has been one of the big concerns. But now Jeff Keighley has taken to Twitter to kind of address this concern, revealing that this year's Summer Game Fest will be very compact. Now, we don't know exactly what that means, but he does say stay tuned for more details, and then later on did clarify that all of Summer Game Fest will take place in June of this year, meaning that we will see everything that they had to offer in a single month period, which I actually think sounds really good. No, it's not necessarily going to be the same as E3 where everybody comes together in a 2 to 3 day period, but at the same time, with everybody kind of getting their own spotlight here, I think that that's actually going to give a lot more exposure to some of these publishers. The thing about E3, and from like a fan's perspective, E3 is so amazing. It's just so exciting with event after event, big announcement after big announcement. It is incredibly exciting, but you also have to keep in mind that these publishers are having to battle for headlines. But with everything being spread out just a little bit here within a month periods of time, well, then suddenly these publishers are going to get a little bit more exposure for each individual event. That also gives fans a little bit more time to absorb some of the information and talk about it online if they want to. And I actually think some of this sounds pretty good. Yes, it is a little bit different in E3, and, you know, again, to be very clear about it, I've always loved E3, but at the same time, I can definitely see how this could be very beneficial for publishers and maybe even for fans as well. But let me know what you think about all of this in the comments below. Do you like the idea of all these events taking place in a single month in a year? I mean, I think by this point, we're expecting Xbox to have some type of an event this June. Nintendo's also very highly likely, maybe PlayStation as well. And if all of the big three has an event week after week after week, yeah, I think that that would be pretty exciting. But let me know what you think about all of this in the comments below. Since we are on the topic of E3 though, I did post a poll today where I asked you all, are you disappointed that E3 2022 has been canceled? And it does look like, yes, a lot of you all are very disappointed about this, with 54% of you saying yes, while 39% of you said no. And this is about what I was expecting. I mean, I think a lot of people, they're just not sold on the idea of Summer Game Fest yet. I think this kind of shows that Jeff Keighley still has a lot to prove here. Summer Game Fest over the last couple years has not been super well received. I think that last year was definitely better than the year before, and hopefully he can continue in that upward trajectory. I think at the very least he's currently saying the right things, and now we just kind of got to wait and see how he actually executes. Nonetheless though, I mean, I absolutely understand the disappointment here, and I think what Aura Wolf said in the comments really hit home with me personally. You can see here that Aura Wolf said that E3 is a whole thing for me and my mates, all of us together on Xbox and have a laugh, chat about what's announced, etc. And my friends and I, we did the exact same thing. We'd call each other on our phones, get on Steam, Discord, or whatever, and we would just have an absolute blast watching these events. So with E3 not happening this year and with its future in doubt, it is a sad moment, and it feels almost like an end of an era. At the same time, though, I do remain optimistic, and I at the very least, I'm hoping for the best this year with Summer Game Fest. I know we still got to see how it plays out, but I'm going to cross my fingers and hope that this turns out to be good. Anyways, though, that's it for this episode, but if you liked the video, don't forget the bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Also, if you'd like to support the channel through Patreon, thank you for making this content possible. Peace out.